Clive and Wrench was a video game I wanted to try out for quite a while, but I always seem to forget about it and decide to play other video games, whenever it's for a YouTube video like the Ratchet & Clank Trilogy and Crash Team Rumble, or playing a game trying to receive a platinum. Like with Alan Wake's Remastered and Astro's Playroom, just to name a few. An updated Platinum collection will be released in the future. But on that one fateful day, as I was wandering around Big W, minding my own business and checking out the video game section, just in a corner of my eye, I spotted the cover of Clive and Wrench that appeared like a magic trick. So I had a choice to either get Clive and Wrench or The Last of Us Part 1, and seeing The Last of Us Part 1 was over $100, I was like, yeah, no thank you. I'll wait around until the Christmas sale comes around. But in all seriousness, I was keen on checking this game out regardless, as it is a passionate indie project that was in the works for quite some time, and I think it's essential to give the smaller games a chance to shine in the big time. Having said that, I do have to applaud Rob Watts for not only he was the sole director for this video game, but Clive and Wrench was in development for 10 frickin' years. That's a lot of dedication and commitment right there. Making video games is not easy. I tried it back in my TAFE studying and, well, let's just say it didn't work out. So let's see if all that hard work was worth it. Let's hop right into some Clive and Wrench. As the story goes, as suggested from the manual, Professor Nancy was working on blueprints to create a time machine using a fridge. The blueprints, however, were stolen by Dr. Dorcas, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly, and his giant henchman who walks very slowly. This makes Nancy feel stressed out. She tells the information to Clive, a rabbit, and Wrench, a monkey, all about what transpired. She sends the two protagonists on a mission to time travel in different areas and timelines to stop the evil forces and Dr. Dorcas' plans to rule the universe. Honestly, that's sort of all I can gather up, as the introduction doesn't have any voice acting, so I have to pay attention to what's going on so I can receive the information in my brain. I think the story is pretty basic and straightforward. It tells the plot of who the evil people are, who you'll be playing as, and go out there on an adventure to stop the villains. I can't help but ponder that this intro reminds me of some set pieces from the Crash Bandicoot series, like Dr. Dorcas, who is a discount version of Dr. Cortex. Nancy is an innovative and intelligent character, like Coco is, and the first time you see Clive, he's pretty much resting and trying to catch up on his sleep, like Crash Bandicoot when you see him in Cortex Strikes Back. It's totally fine to get inspiration from older video games, because where would we be without the good old classics, but I do feel it's crucial not to copycat on everything fully, otherwise you'll be left with a video game that had potential but fell flat. Also, I know this game was developed to pay respect to the classic N64 3D platformers like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64 for example, but I feel that should have been some voice acting in the introduction to really sell that story to the audience. It is the year 2023 after all, and standards for what a video game should have has advanced quite a lot over the years. But I will give Clive and Wrench the benefit of the doubt. It is an indie video game at the end of the day, so I will be going on easy mode, but if I do see something I'm not a fan of, I will let you know. You have a hub world to check out, and again, it's pretty simple, but I feel it's not fully completed. You have some areas to check out before walking into a level, and while some of them don't need to load to walk into that area, some of the other ones do need some loading time, and to me, it creates an inconsistency of figuring out what the main idea was supposed to be. You have a tutorial area you can partake in, and it'll show you how to play the game itself. Clive can jump, double jump, crouch jump, spin attack, swim, and even hover in mid-air, which is very useful in tough platforming situations. All while Wrench is on Clive's back throughout the entire journey. Really brings that saying of having a monkey on your back. The game controls very well when you are walking around, but the swimming side of things is not that great. It almost feels clunky when you're trying to swim underwater from one section to another. Other than that, the control handling when exploring for the most part feels responsive, and if I feel like I made an error, I'll know that it was my fault and not some weird excuse. And when exploring different levels, I think this is one of Clive and Wrench's biggest pros. You can time travel to many timelines and set pieces, from Egypt, Asia, pirates, and a snowy prehistoric land to name a few. This is something I haven't seen before, but don't quote me on that. I enjoy that for every level you go into, Clive will wear a different costume resembling that location, and it's a nice touch. Even though there are not too many levels which look small at first glance, but it easily makes up for the length as every level has a good amount of areas to check out and many tasks to complete. However, I do feel that some levels go on for way longer than they should, and they can drag at certain stages. But other than that, I enjoy the level structures, and I feel there's a nice accomplishment for your inner self when checking out every single detail the game offers. And man, Clive and Wrench absolutely has attention to detail. From the fun writing, quippy puns that'll make you chuckle for a bit, and even having video game covers from the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era and changing the words slightly, but you'll still get the reference. From Jeff and Dexter, which is Jack and Daxter, Socket and Clunk, which is Ratchet and Clank, and my all-time favorite one is Spiral 2 Trouble with the Trolley, which is Spyro 2. This is absolutely fantastic. You can tell Rob definitely knows his stuff. In each level, you can collect stopwatches, which is pretty much the currency for this game, and while I don't mind wandering around collecting them because I'm the type of guy that likes to roam around, sorry, I'm going off track. I don't like how the total number of stopwatches to collect in each level seems inconsistent. In areas, you have to collect, say, 200 or 300 of them, which is a good amount, but then the total amount seems random, as in later levels, it'll increase to 500 or even 800, which sounds like a bit too much to me. I like it when there's a decent number to collect because it's not too little or too overwhelming, it's just the right sweet spot. And sure, you have an antenna you can use to track down and find the remaining stopwatches, kinda like similar to Sparks to finding the missing gems in Spyro, but then it just results in backtracking, and I suppose it varies from one person to another. It really depends if you don't mind backtracking, but I hate it. You can also collect ancient stones, and collecting enough will allow you to progress into the game. You can earn them by completing objectives, finding them out in the open, or finishing up some puzzles, which ranges from pretty easy to this is absolute torture. You can also collect keys to open a safe, scrolls to give to a llama, and I have no idea if they actually do anything, and a random collectible type to help out a friendly NPC, like finding some kids or smashing a tomato stand to name a few. The OST sounds really nice and very catchy when I was playing the game at the time, but looking back, I couldn't think of any memorable music apart from the main menu song, which kicks ass in my opinion. And as for the bosses, I have to say, I'm pretty mixed about them. On one hand, you have some boss battles that are creative and make you really think on the fly on how to defeat that character, but on the other hand, other boss battles don't feel like boss fights, as the game will either have you run from one section to another or complete a tough platforming area. And to me, it's pretty lazy for a boss battle. I understand that Rob would have wanted to spice things up to make it less repetitive, but still, I would disagree and say within those running and platforming sections, it takes away from that boss, and I'm more focusing on finishing that stage instead of focusing on the actual character itself. I did end up laughing at this boss fight, however, it's just hilarious stuff. But other than that, this is a pretty nice video game, and really, it has all the essential things you want out of a 3D platformer. Still, something is holding this game back, unfortunately, from being a great video game, and that is the bugs and technical issues. When the game was released, Clive and Wrench didn't feel like a complete video game, and even to this day, it still has some weird WTF moments. For example, when defeating an enemy, sometimes their body just turns into a ragdoll and jumps all over the place. And when killing an enemy, for some strange reason, you also get hit as well, which is something I feel shouldn't happen. Every now and then you also have Clive doing a T-pose while walking, and I get that seeing these bugs can be pretty hilarious at times, but having way too much of them can be distracting you from the overall experience. Fortunately for me, I kept playing despite seeing these different amount of bugs, and even got a platinum trophy at the end of my playthrough. Yeah, that trophy, Bluebeard's Busted, where you have to complete a platforming stage without dying once. Yeah, it's not that difficult. It only took me 3 attempts, but all you have to do is time your jumps, learn the pattern from these platforms, and you'll be just fine. I honestly thought I would die at this part, but I quickly jumped back to save myself, and I don't know, I feel like I should have died here. I'm not sure if it's a glitch or not, but I guess that's just the personality of what Clive and Wrench offers. Regardless of this game's reception and what I think about it, I think Rob Watts should really be proud of himself for creating a project that was 10 years in the making, let alone doing it all by himself. Many people would have just given up and moved on to other hobbies, but not this guy. He stuck with this game through thick and thin and made it come to life. And having it released in retail stores no less. The last time I saw a passionate indie project that was created by one person was Toby Fox when he developed Undertale, and we all know how that turned out. Now, is Clive and Wrench a perfect video game? No, I feel that some levels do go on for way longer than they should, not to mention the amount of glitches within the game itself, but I do believe that Clive and Wrench has a lot of charm. It does take you back to that wonderful era of 3D platforming when all you do is explore around and find some cool shit. It controls nicely, the soundtrack sounds good, and I enjoy the creative writing side of things. I've seen quote-unquote professional gaming journalists pretty much giving it negative reviews and calling it a flop only because of the technical errors. But if you look past that, there is some potential here. If you enjoy 3D platforming, pick this game up while you can. But if you prefer games to be perfect with no issues whatsoever, then maybe skip this one. For me, however, I enjoyed Clive and Wrench despite the bugs, and there's totally room for a sequel down the line. Just maybe for the next game, have a few extra people behind the scenes to not only polish that second game, but also add some new ideas to the table to really make it stand out compared to the first title. And who knows, perhaps this could turn into a beloved video game series that could rival many other beloved childhood video game series out there. But we'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, this is going to wrap up this video. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as always, my name is Justin Hurst, telling you to keep calm and keep playing video games.